Hi, welcome to Tuesday, April the 8th. This is a confidence on camera tutorial, and today we are talking about story, like we do every Wednesday. Today we're going to be going over a couple of scripts from Heartland. I'm going to need everybody to participate once we get into actually looking at the scripts with chat. So in the next couple of minutes, while I'm doing that, figure out how you can at least enter text, because I'm going to ask you some questions, and I'm hoping that you can join me in like throwing answers in there, and so we can see all those in the chat window. For right now, I'm going to start by looking at the questions that I normally go through with scripts. Lincoln last week was like, well, what about this method? What about that? There are a whole bunch of different methods. I think I'll start by recommending, if you want lots more detail, there are 3 books, that are sort of top of mind. There are lots of great resources out there. One's Audition by Michael Shurtleff, The Power of the Actor by Ivana Chubbuck, or The Intent to Live by Larry Moss. When I'm going through scripts, my benchmark for what kind of questions I want to ask and what kind of questions I want to encourage my students to ask is what's going to help them with the performance. Basically, what's going to make you feel more, what's going to help you tell the story more. That there are lots of different questions that we can ask, but in my experience as a teacher, and I've been teaching for almost 20 years now, there are only some of those questions that make an immediate difference in somebody's performance. And so as you continue to break down scripts, pay attention to what questions you get the most utility out of. And so in the simplest possible way these days, I'm breaking it down into what is the story? Who are the characters? What do you want that other person to do or feel? Okay. And so just to go over each of them really quickly, with what is the story, I'm looking for basically a 1-sentence description of the story. 1 sentence of the scene, 1 sentence of the whole story. Often you can find that it'll be in the breakdown. So your agent, when you have an audition, will send you a breakdown that will say storyline. Boom, there it is. There's the whole project. And so all you have to do in terms of deciding is you have to decide what the story for that single scene is. And you want to make it as simple as possible, but the choice that you make there influences the rest of your choices. Also, I think it's a good idea to understand the style. But I have had times in my life where, as a teacher or as an actor, I had many, many points of checklist. And at this point, I'm just like, what is the story? Do you understand the story? Great, we can move forward. Who are the next one is who are the characters? I'm going to ask for 3 adjectives, ideally 3 single-word adjectives to describe each person in the script. This person, she's nice and bossy and a little crazy. Okay, good. Now we understand who she is. And then the simple way that I've been approaching objective or what your character wants in relation to the other person is what do you want them to do or feel, which is lifted right from Larry Moss's book. If you're going to go read The Intent to Live, it's the way that he approaches objective is how do you want the other character, what do you want the other character to do or feel? So let's take a look at the script Georgie from Heartland. So I don't anymore have the breakdown for this, but I do have the audition sides. There were a couple of different people who, lots of people in Vancouver auditioned for it. A couple of students of mine at the time had callbacks, and then somebody who had been a client of mine based out of Victoria actually booked this role, named Alicia Newton. I had to go searching in my contacts database because I think it was a full decade ago that I last did coaching with her. So Heartland is a TV show about horses. We're going to look, rather than go with my imperfect description, we're going to look it up, or I'm going to show you what I found. So the audition script is this: Heartland, episode 601, Georgie Sides, January 23, 2012. Now, somebody thrown into the chat window So this is obviously page 1 of 4 of the audition sides. What's this guy mean here? What information do we get out of the number in the top right corner of the script? Anybody? How many minutes into the script? Yeah, the I think we talked about that last week. That's the page number of the actual script, right? So if it's episode 601, that's page 2 of the script, and that's about how many minutes there are in Avia. That's totally accurate. I mean, it's rough, but at least it's a good guess. So this means this is the season 6, episode 1, and this is the first time Georgie is showing up, and she's showing up on page 2 of the script. These sites were particularly interesting because they came along, in addition to 24 pages of FYI, they came with like a very detailed character description. So this is more detailed than you would typically get in the breakdown from your agent, but a classic character based on the likes of Anne of Green Gables, 11 years old, speaks her mind, deals with everything in a matter-of-fact way, not above being cuttingly sarcastic. She's more of an observer who takes in a situation then acts on it, sometimes in an impetuous and reckless manner. She's funny, spunky, ready to take anybody on. Now, I'll throw this out there that when you have a detailed breakdown like this, a tool that was offered to me by one of my coaches that I really, really like is you pull each of these words kind of as you go through the script. You're like, okay, she's come on now, technology, funny and spunky and reckless and impetuous, and then observer. That all of these are the writer, the director, the people who are in charge of this process giving you their best idea of here's how we want the story to be told. And so one of the things you can do is you can underline these, or make a separate list and then parse them out through the script, divide them up in the script. So you're like, okay, here in this line, observer, in this line, impetuous, and then funny, and then spunky, in this line, reckless, reckless. It can be a really great way to work with the writer and to bring those tools in. So right from the beginning, when we're trying to understand the story, we're like, what have they given us? Right? Georgie's been a foster child since she was 3, more homes than she cares to remember. So not trusting or open. Okay, survivor. They've spelled rye wrong. It should be W-R-Y. Rye is bread. This one is bread. W-R-Y is like, having a wry sense of humor, like, ironic or something. When we meet Georgie, she's just run away from a foster family where she lived for only a few months. Her brother Jeff, Fort McMurray, funny, smart-mouthed. There's the word reckless again, adventurous. And so we've got a whole bunch of descriptors of this character. I mean, she was a recurring character. She was maybe not like the top series lead, but her presence in the script was like a very strong one for this entire season. So we've got a whole bunch of words to describe her: observer, impetuous, funny, spunky, not trusting, wry, survivor, funny, smart-mouthed, adventurous. Oh, good. So funny shows up a couple of times as well. So we can see that that's important to the writer, to the character. Now, if you're auditioning for this, here's what you've got. Heartland interior. This is interior exterior, Heartland living room day. Jack sits across from the runaway, a small figure hunched up on the sofa, arms crossed tightly, staring unmoving down at the carpet. Jack's not sure whether the kid in front of him is a girl or a boy, hard to tell with the chopped off hair, jeans, t-shirt, and hoodie. Most of the lines are Jack's, right? So we read through. Georgie is mute. How about a phone number? Nothing. Listen, don't want to involve the police. The kid looks up at him sharply. Jack notices the fear. Now, these are part of the actual audition sides. One of the reasons I picked them is because Georgie has almost no lines. That something like this, you have to really understand the story in detail. You have to have made clear choices about what are your opinions about each of these things being said to you. because they're really testing, are you listening and reacting all the way through? Listen, I don't want to involve the police. If there isn't like a, okay, I'm trying to check out, and then listen, I don't want to involve the police. The snap back, the like, some kind of like, oh dang, we don't want the police involved. If there's no reaction there, then we don't get the story. Uh, the I believe we can solve this without them. I have to call your folks. Now, there was a question last week that I just want to give you a reminder that if you get something like the kid's eyes roll, if you get a specific note from the writer about how you should show that physically with your acting, you don't have to take that. It is not required. What you need to do is work with the writer and go, okay, what does this mean? This gives us information about the opinion of the kids, right? So I think that the reaction here, I've been over, listen, I don't want to involve the police. The kid looks up at him sharply. So there's like clear, Jack notices the fear. Good, so it's really clear what the opinion there is about the police being involved. But this, I won't, because I believe we can solve this without them, but I have to call your folks. The kid's eyes roll. What's the opinion there about the, calling the folks, about the parents, about Jack's comment that her parents must be worried. What's this strong opinion? If you're going through the script trying to understand the story, throw it in the chat window. I'm waiting. Right, and even though we're looking at a script with a female actor, understanding story is important for everybody. And this is going to be particularly relevant, I think, for Raven, for you, and for Josh, because you're going to be helping me out with some rehearsal coaching this semester. Nobody? What does that eye roll tell us? Okay, think about it, and you can just bring it into your body if you want. Okay, so Jack says, I don't involve the police, and I won't. So he's reassuring her, because I believe we can solve this without them, right? So we're going to talk about this. We're going to figure this out. We're not going to involve the police, but I have to call your folks. And so what's the eye roll? If you're going to put, if it does, you don't have a strong, clear like feeling or opinion, then you can put it into your own words. Like, what is the eye roll saying? Like, what does that say? What are we actually getting there? Is it, oh brother? Is it, oh, do we have to? Is it, well, that's dumb. Is it something else? Right? What's the eye roll saying? Maybe he's upset that Jack still has to contact his parents. Good, and Georgie is a girl. But yes, so it's like, so Jack's just said, we can deal with this together. Okay, that's promising. But we have to call your parents. Oh God, because we know from reading the breakdown that she just left the foster parents. Kid does not want Jack to call his parents and is annoyed. Exactly, right? So there's, so it could be annoyance. It could be, some version of upset. Jack has just said, we're going to work this out together. And now, got to bring the parents into it. They've got to be pretty frantic, not knowing where you are, don't you think? Silence, the tiniest of dismissive shrugs. Jack, a beat. Now, sometimes you even have these written into a script. Understanding story is, when you get into detail, is you're trying to understand the opinions of the characters, what the writer is trying to give us the story is about, and especially these little changes. And some of them are little, line by line, and then some of them are significant. So when a writer feels like there's a really important shift in the scene, then they will sometimes put in this a beat. And so again, working with the writer, it's really important to look at that. You don't have to take it exactly the way it's written, but I think you do have to read it for information. And at least when you're rehearsing, try it on. Okay, if I really make that a significant change, if I'm doing Jack, does it help the story? Does it help the script? A beat. I'm assuming you ran away. If you did, there's a lot of people out there who care about you, who are searching for you. I know you're probably afraid of the consequences of that. You know what they'll say, what they'll do. Uh, maybe he doesn't want anything to do with Jack. Right. This, oh God, like, why do I even have to deal with you? Like that's what the eye roll is. Silence. I mean, I'm sure you're pretty darn scared right now. Georgie, defiant. I'm not scared. Jack's surprised to hear that the voice is feminine. Okay, so this is where we find out in the scene that Georgie's a girl. The If you didn't know what the word defiant meant, it would only take you a second to look up in Google. It would be so straightforward. I probably can do it right now in here in the little chat window. Look up defiant. Defiant, showing defiance. Intransigent, well, that's very helpful. Showing defiant. Okay, so I better look up defiance because it says showing defiance. And I get open resistance or bold disobedience. Right? So I think that at this point, because of access to technology, there's no excuse to show up for an audition or for class if you're using class to prepare yourself for professional auditions, not knowing what a word like this means, especially if it's been put in brackets like this. The writer thinks that it is important enough to really highlight. So they think that this is significant in terms of telling the story. Okay, and I bet no one's looking for me. Well, I could make some calls and prove you wrong. Go ahead, I don't care what you do, I'm not going back. After a beat, there's that word again. What's your name? My name is Georgie. Georgie stares Jack down. Okay, so if you are playing Georgie, what's the one sentence version of this story, the story of this first scene? What would you say this story is about? Here, let me unmute you so you can say them out loud if that's easier than typing them. Okay. What would you say is the one sentence version of the scene? What's this scene about? Raven? Josh? Yeah, go for it.
It's about Georgie, that she ran away and Jack is trying to, help her because he doesn't understand what's going on and she doesn't want to participate, I guess, kind of.
Okay, good. And so we just try and condense it and put it into emotional language, because remember, the blow by blow of the story we don't need. We've got the script in front of us.
Right.
What we're trying to understand is, like, what is the story really about? Right? Is this story about a confused old guy? Is this story about like a runaway girl, who something? Like in that one sentence version of the story, you actually have quite a bit of choice. Right? If you're writing paragraphs and paragraphs, well, then of course you can say all the details. But to help you understand the story you want to tell, and so I'll come back to you after we've heard from a couple of other folks. But think about that, right? If you're playing Georgie, what version of the story do you want to tell? And there's a lot of your own opinion in that, and I think that's where actors aren't just craftspeople. Actors are coming in with their own opinions about things. They're saying, "Here's what I want as a storyteller." So, if you're playing Georgie, what would you say is the one sentence version of it? What's the story of the scene? What do you want to tell?
Well, we don't really know the backstory of why she ran away. So it could be like a girl who ran away from home. Like, I ran away from home and someone found me. And
we know from the breakdown that she ran away from her most recent foster home, not her parents, but from her most recent foster home, that she's only been for a couple of months. We also know from the breakdown that she's gone from foster home to foster home so many times that she has like amusing nicknames for, like, the smelly guy and the something, right? So that's the backstory we've got.
she's tired from going to different homes.
Gotcha. So we've got like this runaway who's looking for a place to call home. Yeah, and that's the story that you want to tell. Totally valid. Zara.
I was going to say the same thing, but
Were you?
I didn't know how to put in those words, so yeah.
Cece.
Maybe she maybe she got moved from home to home, and then sort of same with her, I guess. Yeah.
Putting into your own words is always valuable and valid. So if there's a way that it makes more sense emotionally to you, even if it's the same idea, then please try that out loud, because this isn't just an academic exercise. This isn't like for English class. This is for you as an actor to be like, what story is the most important to me, or which story do I want to tell? Raven, thanks for waiting.
A rebellious young girl trying to become independent.
Fantastic, right? Different from Avia's story, and still a totally valid way to approach this. Luciana.
Maybe she ran away from home, and the guy, he's like pushing her to, like, he wants to call her parents and stuff, but she doesn't want to. That's why she's defiant and whatnot.
Right. So what you're doing is you're giving me a blow-by-blow breakdown of the script, which is what Josh did. And what I'm asking you is to look one level past that, not just for like, what's the story on the page, but what if you're Georgie, what story do you want to tell? Right? And do you want to tell the story of the person who's always going to run away, who so that then the story becomes like Jack and the folks at Heartland slowly winning her over, for instance. Maybe that's another totally valid and different approach. But like right from the beginning, she's like, look, I'm just staying here tonight and then I'm out. Okay, well, maybe I'll stay until tomorrow. Okay, well, maybe I'll stay until Tuesday. And then 6 months later, she's still there and she's part of the family. Maybe. Josh, do you want to take back at it?
Yeah, sure. So maybe it's like she or he, if I'd be playing.
Yeah, if it was your son, of course.
That Georgie's kind of she runs away from home, and she's kind of confused and scared that she might never actually have a real family.
Okay, so it's like the story of a confused, scared girl who's worried she's never going to have a real family, and is covering that. Great. Yeah. Now, there's a lot of approaches to script that'll say have a secret. That how important it is for have a secret for your character. So the story Josh wants to tell has a secret built into it. Which is like on the page, we've got defiance, push them away. I'm fine. I'm totally independent. If Josh is telling the story, his secret is I really want a family, and I'm scared that that's never going to happen for me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh, Lincoln, sorry. I will turn your video back on. Nope. Maybe we lost Lincoln. There you go. Sorry, when I went into the other screen, you were like right there in my face, looking like you were about to fall asleep. And I was like, I don't need to see that while I'm trying to teach. I'm just going to turn off Lincoln's video. But man, I couldn't see your hand. Did you want to jump in there with like a version of Georgie if you're playing Georgie?
Someone that doesn't really like other people.
Great.
Like, she might not like other people, and she might be annoyed by them because she's seen so many different people.
Right. So this is the story of like a girl who's just annoyed by other people, and trying to make her way in the world. You see how all of those fit the script that we got. Sorry, do you want to jump in with something?
Yeah, I mean, considering how Georgie might be feeling about having to move from foster home to foster home, and now coming to the barn, and Jack's asking her these questions while he might be vexing her, because I mean, she's moving to foster home from foster home, and she's definitely the kind of kid, I mean, I agree with Lincoln, the kind of kid who doesn't really like talking to other people that much.
And so I pulled a couple of videos. This is so me. I figured that we would be able to, in this lesson, cover story and who the character is and what you want them to do. But basically, today is going to be just about story. And I'll toss the other ones on as like extremely brief ones. Now, doing a little bit of research when you're auditioning for something, so necessary at this point. Okay. Oh, that we'll look at later. So, Heartland Season 1, right? Here we've got the breakdown: A Family Ranch, A Horse Whisperer, A Fight to Save a Dream, a hit family series based on the best-selling books by Lauren Brooke. So if you were really serious about this, you were auditioning for it, or you had a callback, you could go get one of the books and read part of the books even. and really understand sort of what is the arc of Georgie in the book series. Does she show up there? Right, so this helps you understand the story. This is the kind of thing that your agent would send to you in a breakdown, and if they didn't, and you were going out for an existing show like this, because this was season 6, you could go find this on IMDb or on YouTube really easily. Right, you can watch a little clip of it to get a feel for, what is this, a family ranch or
Here we are, Amy, at home. Mom used to say, the answer to any horse ridden always lay in the back.
You're a genius.
So we get a sense of what the show is, who the audience is. If the show is for aimed at little kids, I think that's important to understand. When you're starting to understand the story. If the show is sort of aimed at your age, if the show is aimed older, if the show's aimed, at like your parents' age, your grandparents' age, this is something that 2 minutes or 3 minutes on YouTube and IMDb will tell you. And then this is Alicia Newton, who actually wrote the book.
And out of foster care. So there's now 18. In foster care since she was 3. She's a foster child. She's totally fit right in. Georgie, she's a foster child, and she's been in foster care since she was 3, and her brother's now 18 and out of foster care. So he lives in Fort Mac, so she was on her way to Fort Mac, and she ends up at the Heartland Ranch.
Alicia Newton plays Georgie.
Anyway, details. So we can go and see, interesting, like that's who they ultimately cast. I wish I had footage from the callback auditions that I helped other people with ages ago. It would be so great. Every once in a while, with one of these roles, you can go on YouTube and you can find sort of the top 3 people who the callbacks posted. Maybe we can see if we can find something like that for next week. So the little bit of research, I think, is really important in understanding the style. The shout out to Jeb Beach. There's a local school that teaches adults. I think you would find it at jebbeach.com. But his focus is very much on like understand the style, understand the story, and so I was inspired by him, in terms of adding that to my understanding of story. The next thing that place that I would go from here, now that you understand the story, is I would go, okay, start, you've got all those adjectives to describe Georgie, but you don't have any to describe Jack, each of the other characters. And then you would follow that through to what is your strong feeling or opinion about them, and then what do you want them to do or feel, right? So is the scene, now that you understand Georgie and the story you're telling, is this scene, if you're playing Georgie, is the scene, look, just leave me alone? Is the scene, okay, what do you want? Is the scene, like, don't look at me, I'm not staying, or is the scene something else, right? So you would put that into your own words, but we can go more into detail on that next week. So a reminder that this Friday, we've got casting director Candice Elzinga joining us. This is Candice on IMDb, 221 credits as a casting director. When Calls the Heart, See, You Me Her, 30 episodes, 20 episodes, 1 episode, Kim Possible.
Michael?
Yes.
She was in When Calls the Heart?
This is the casting director.
Oh, casting director, sorry.
For When Calls the Heart.
Oh my god, I love her.
Same.
I've seen like all these movies.
And so you can look at her in more detail. I'll put her name in the chat window so you can copy and paste it. Elzinga. Yeah, and so you can look her up and go over that in more detail. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about industry, and going over some details. I think probably what we'll do is we'll look at resumes. So 1 or 2 of you, if you would bring your resume, or like find a PDF copy of your resume that you can either email me or you can share with us once the meeting starts. Then I can talk in general terms, like here's what a resume should look like, but then we can go specifically through yours. And I mean, hopefully we'll have time to do as many of you as want me to look over your resume, because it'll only take 30 seconds to a minute to go over each one. And Taylor, feel free to jump in. I know you're being real quiet, but feel free to bring your resume tomorrow, and we'll go over it with the rest of them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to unmute you all. That's the end of this Confidence on Camera lesson on story. We really dug into that first basic question: what is the story, and what's the story that you want to tell? Now I'm opening it up for Q&A, but I'm saying this part so that if you're watching the video at home, you can be like, you know what, I'm good, I don't need to watch the Q&A. But if you do, here it is. Okay, so you are all unmuted. To start with, do you have questions about any of the things that I covered in this lesson? Okay, great. In that case, do you have questions about anything at all? Anything that is on your acting minds between yesterday and today that you want to run by me? Wow, Avia, the lighting setup where you are has gotten lots better.
Thank you.
Now, is that deliberate? Like you just sort of took the notes from the last couple of days and arranged it, or it's just that like the sunlight's coming into your room in a really great way today?
The other room I was in before, it like the window was on the side.
Ah.
I'm in my room now, and there's like a window right behind my
Camera.
My laptop, and I have 2 lights. So
it's great. I was just like, wow, like Avia looks like a scene from a movie where somebody's like thinking about what to say, and it was like, that's because she's done that on purpose and set up the lighting and everything. I think the only change that you would want to make if you were doing a self-tape is just taking the robe off of the door and putting it somewhere. Just because I keep noticing it. Right, and probably like some adult you don't know, you will have the same response as me, which they'll be like, huh.
Yeah, I'd probably take it off and I'd most likely push the lights over.
Like those,
lights.
Oh, I see. But I don't think that the lights are that big a deal when they're turned off, because they're almost invisible. Like we just don't want anything that's more interesting than your eyeballs, or that's going to distract us in that way.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes, Sarah, please. Question.
So this is one of the other questions that I asked a lot, but are you also in the big year?
Yeah, for
okay.
All of like 10 seconds.
Okay.
Yes, but yeah, oh my God, it was doing these little roles in big films is super fun, because you get to spend the whole day or sometimes multiple days hanging out with these other actors. So in that one in particular, I was on set with Jack Black and Steve Martin the entire day. I played their waiter in the restaurant. And so I got to like chat with Jack Black, and he'd just gotten to town and he wanted to know about like cool stuff to do, and he was talking about his family. And Steve Martin was like had his banjo, and he was playing music for the director and the crew and the producers, because I guess there was him like sort of trying out for the soundtrack. He was like, here's this song, because he's a skilled musician in addition to being a skilled actor. So it was an amazing experience for me. Okay, if there are no more questions about story, then come on back tomorrow and bring a copy of your resume. We'll talk about industry stuff and just do like a quick review of the role of the casting director, so you're super ready to take advantage of Candace when she comes in on Friday.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Remember to join that Facebook group sometime between now and Sunday, so I can share the scripts for next week with you as well.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank
Pleasure.
you. Bye.